All right, lads, and welcome back to the Tartan Stand. It's after another hectic week of Scottish Premiership action. In this segment, we'll be talking about the Dundee Aberdeen game and obviously the two Saints, St Mirren and St Johnstone. But before we dive in it, lads, how are we all feeling?
Buzzing.
Excellent. Really,
I'm absolutely
Wow,
buzzing.
yeah.
Excellent from the St Johnstone Aberdeen fans. Who would have thought, well, you won't be excellent after this video because you will be depressed again. We will go into the Dundee and Aberdeen, and obviously Kwani kind of did actually briefly speak about it, the Stephen Robinson comments. What did you actually think of that after the 2-0 defeat to Dundee?
I thought they were quite bizarre, to be honest. To pick that we missed Brad Lyons and didn't win second balls as the reason we didn't win. It's just bizarre comments. He's kind of putting himself under pressure that he doesn't need to be putting himself under pressure. He's already going to be under pressure because a lot of people didn't want him in the first place, and people are just going to jump all over that, to be honest. The reason we got beat on Saturday was because Dundee were by far the better team. As good as Dundee were, that's how bad Aberdeen were.
Obviously, kind of spoke about the comments that some fans is already going to be back. A lot of Aberdeen fans are already worried about where this team is heading. Do you think they have a right to be, or are you thinking it is only 2 games in, kind of relax?
I think it's only 2 games in, to be honest. Like they showed a lot of determination to dig it out against Hearts. Yes, it wasn't the best performance, but I think Hearts were particularly good either. Yesterday, there was a couple of moments where if things had went slightly differently, the game might have changed. We've hit the bar twice. Especially the first one from Happy goes in, it makes it 1-1. Maybe makes a different game. But at the same time, you're saying that Dundee should have been 4 or 5 up at half time, the amount of chances they missed. So, yeah, it's maybe a little bit clutching at straws. But, yeah, I think he is going to be under pressure because of the way he was appointed. We could have got him the day after Jimmy was sacked. So why didn't they go do it? They waited and waited and waited. They touted other managers, saying that they were interviewing this guy, that guy. They didn't want the job, and then we get knocked out of the cup by Dunfermline, and he gets brought in. So it did look like panic, and if the fans get the slightest inclination that he's not wanted by the club in the first place, then they're just going to be all over him as soon as there's any pressure to put on him.
Rob, obviously Dundee's first game, they did lose 1 against Celtic. There was actually a lot of promise you see in that match. In the last 10 minutes, you could probably say Dundee could have walked away with a point. But if over the 2 games, have you actually seen enough that Dundee could potentially challenge for the top 6?
I knew that question was coming. I'm going to give you the boring answer and say I think it's too early to tell. I mean, don't get me wrong. I think last season, had we started with the form that we continued with at the end of December, do you know what? I think the promise is there. I really do. I don't want to speak too early, but over the 2 games so far, I think we've played well, good football, obviously. I mean, I'm sure everybody's seen all the comments. It's one of the best games Dundee have played in the last few years against Aberdeen. And I'm feeling really hopeful, but I don't want to speak too soon.
Obviously, a lot of managers get a lot more negative comments rather than praise, but how much credit should Stephen Pressley get for that Dundee performance against Aberdeen?
Oh, massive. I mean, obviously, like I say, last season, turning it around. And all he's done is he's built on that team, whereas Dundee has thrived over the past few years with loan spells, whereas he's really wanting to build a team and actually have a set 11, whereas every year we seem to cycle through players. And his development, his tactics have all been spot on. And to be honest, I'm over the moon with him so far.
Robbie, obviously I kind of potentially asked Rob that question, but how much should we read into St Mirren after the 2 performances? Is that like another team that's capable of breaking into the top 6, especially when a lot of people have been predicting St Mirren to get relegated?
I'm reading a lot into our performances after the first 2 games. I'm touting this for a pretty good season early doors, but I just, you look at everything about the game, and I don't know if you've had the chance to look at social media much, but there was a good 3-minute video that went around. I think it was titled something like, "Here's 3 minutes of why St Mirren will be absolutely fine this season." And Alex, I know you were there as well. It was like the 82nd minute when we just pushed St Johnstone back into the end half, and we would not give up the fight on winning the ball. It was every second challenge. We were winning the ball back. We were pressing forward. We just looked so on top of St Johnstone at times in the game. It was so refreshing to see. And as I said after the first game, I think McLeish has proved a lot of people wrong there. I think he was under a slight bit of pressure after the Dunfermline game just to kick off the season well, and you actually can't ask for much better. 6 out of 6. It's a perfect start.
Obviously, kind of spoke about McLeish there. Is there a wee bit of worry around you saying if he goes into like the Christmas period and he does have that hard run? Obviously, he kind of got out of it against the Partick Thistle game, but there was a massive break heading into summer. There's also not going to be a break midweek through, this football season. Is there a worry to you that Craig McLeish might not be able to get over that line when it does come, because it eventually will?
Well, I hope you're wrong. I hope that doesn't come, and I hope we are pushing it to the top 6. But I think you're right. The more realistic thing is we're going to face hard spells. But what we've seen early doors is we've got the fight and we've got the courage to keep going and keep fighting in games when it doesn't look likely. There was points in that game yesterday where St Johnstone probably could have took the lead and took advantage of the game, and they just didn't. So for us to go and take advantage of that, there wasn't a bad player yesterday in the game, and that's so promising to me, because there was players last season like Jaden Richardson who I didn't think was good enough and I didn't think could be in the future in our team, but he's toughened up this season. He looks a lot stronger, a lot more physical, and we just overall look better. So I think when it comes to the nitty-gritty games, if you will, I think we're a lot better suited already to handle these sort of games and try and nick a 1-0 like we did yesterday. I think a Robinson team, or I think McLeish in that interim spell, I don't think we walk away with 3 points in a game like that. So it was so refreshing to see us actually battle on and get that 3 points. And again, it's another game, another clean sheet as well.
Alex, obviously, again, I'm going to keep reiterating this as only 2 games into the season. But is there a worry that this is the type of game maybe St Johnstone should be getting points from if they want to actually survive in the first season?
Oh, 100%. We need as many points on the board as possible. Well, I speak for all the teams, but particularly us. We really need to get the points on the board to survive in this league. And we already know it is a tough league, and we just need to be patient, take game by game, and just keep figuring it out. And speaking to Robbie and that, I think Simo needs to experiment his players a bit more rather than starting the same 11 that we did against Kilmarnock, because I think we do need that. And I also think, and I'm sorry to say this, St Johnstone fans, I'm really concerned about Toby Stewart at the moment as our goalkeeper for the Premiership season. I just think I don't want to blame the guy. He's great, he's a good, decent keeper in that, but I just think he's going to struggle, and that's why I'm thinking Ross Sinclair for the goalkeeper shirt. I think he should have started against St Mirren yesterday because he had that emergency loan last season with Robbie's team. He knows, and Robbie knows, and us Saints fans, we do, and it's that experience in that. So aside from that, we are going to be inconsistent. We're not going to be perfect. We will have ups and downs. So we just have to go through that journey ourselves and just stay with, just hang in there. Yeah.
I know there's a lot of hypotheticals. Obviously, St Johnstone didn't miss a penalty. I think it was actually a decent save from Chapman. But do you think St Johnstone still have that lack of attacking cutting edge at the final third?
I think they do. Yes, I think we do. We definitely need that. It's moments in the game, because I've seen like the spaces opening up, and then seeing Rory Payton running through, and the players it's just making the wrong decisions. And I think if we had Josh McPake and if we had Adam Sidibe, what if that could have been a different story? It could have been we walked away with 3 points, potentially 3 points. But I think Kai Fodenham, Logan Shammers need to start. They need to start. I feel Simo is bringing them just to impact the game. We need these sort of players to start for starting 11 and hit the ground running. If we don't do that, I'm really, really concerned right now. Not just myself as a St Johnstone fan, across all the fan base, because I just want us to play good football. That's all I want.
Alex, please feel free to, sorry to cut in there, Jonathan, but Alex, please feel free to disagree with here, but the way I saw it and the way I've seen it the last sort of couple of games I've watched this at Johnson is, I think Plan A works very well at times, and I think when St Johnstone are on top of their game, they're really on top of their game. But when it comes to a Plan B and it comes to needing to change the game, I think that's where Simo lacks in some areas. I think yesterday there was a real chance where we weren't playing well. St Johnstone could have got on Tappies, and as I said, I just don't think Simo made the substitutions at the right time, and that's, in my opinion, that would be a worry because you need to change the game when it's not going your way. I get, as you're saying, you want to play attacking football and you want to be on top of teams, but when you're coming to away days like St Mirren and whoever else you'll go to, when it's not going your way, you need to be able to have a wee bit of backup.
And I agree with you, Robbie, 100%. That's the frustrating thing I am seeing from Simo right now. I've seen it last season, and we've got like a game. There's a game to win. You want to win a football game, and I just feel like he's bringing on substitutions far too well. Not very late. Well, he has, but in the 63rd minute. Why can't he bring them on after half time? It really, really baffles me, guys. I'm telling you this, right? And I don't want to have a go at Simo because he's my pal and that, but I just feel it's the timing of it and just needs to be better. That's all I'm asking from him is to make those substitutions like what he did at Kilmarnock at home. He made it spot on. He changed the game. I wish he did that similar yesterday, but hey, everyone's not perfect, so we'll have to give him some slack on that one. But yeah, again, he just needs to do that, in my opinion.
Quanny, also going back to the Aberdeen game, what does Stephen Robinson need to change immediately? Because realistically, the 4 games in the Premier Sports Cup is 4 games Aberdeen should be winning. The game against Hearts, they did get the 3 points, but let's be honest, performance wasn't that great, but sometimes getting the 3 points is all that matters. The Dundee performance, again, still wasn't great. It could have been a much more bigger scoreline. What in your thoughts does Stephen Robinson need to change?
So I think the first thing needs to be that Lewis Smith needs to start ahead of Tony Ugan. That's a big thing. He seems to get the ball in quicker. He beats his man, he gets the ball in. That's what Kevin Nisbet needs. I think he needs to be looking at changing things a little bit quicker as well. Olasanya had moments yesterday. He was still really poor, but he should have been off quicker. To throw on a young lad at 15-year-old in the 87th minute, there was no difference between throwing him on in 87 and throwing him on in 75, to be honest. He could have thrown him on a little bit earlier, something a little bit different. So he does seem to already look like he sticks with what he has and is a little bit reluctant to change when a lot of people can see it. Like, he did make changes at halftime, but they were so blatantly obvious. Ugan had to come off, and that's the second game in a row he's been hooped at halftime. Aremu as well, I think, was injured, so that's why he came off. I don't think he would have taken him off if he wasn't. I also think as well that Armstrong and Breedle in centre mid won't work together. They're 2 players that are too similar. They're a bit flashy. They'll drift out of position too much. They'll try and find space because that's the type of player that they are. They won't hold position and protect the back 4 because that's what they needed to do in the second half yesterday, and they didn't do it. And I would also like to see Finlay Marshall getting some more game time. He got thrown on in centre mid, and I was like, "Ooh, interesting." I expected him to be a little bit further forward, but he held his own really well when he came on. So I would like to see more game time for him as well.
I waited 4 years for Robinson to try and make subs quicker. Quanny, you might not be getting there anything soon.
Rob, obviously, in my opinion, I still feel, I know this is bizarre to say this statement, that Dundee could potentially still bring in a wee bit more quality in the final third, especially losing, I know kind of slaughtered them here, Ugan, but obviously Congreve went back to Swansea. Do you feel impressed with the Dundee squad, even though realistically, maybe in your mind, it still needs strengthened a wee bit more than you think?
So yeah, I'm going to start this off by fully agreeing. Probably need another 4 players in because we do need strengthening out the wings. Midfield looks good. Defence so far looks pretty good with 1 goal in 2 games. Which, if you compare that back to the Tony Dock days, I'm over the moon about that. It's a massive improvement. But so far, I have to say, so good. That Joe Bevan's an absolute standout. He's been unbelievable for us. Joe Wesley, I think he's out for a couple of weeks now. Like, he picked up a hammy injury, but has looked really good. And then having your backups in Ash Hay, Cy Murray. Cy Murray, he's not a 90-minute man anymore, but still a really, really vital part of our squad. And I'm really, really happy with the squad so far.
I think, obviously I could be wrong here, I think it's the derby next against Dundee United. Is this the first time in a while you might be thinking, you know what, we're actually confident where we can beat Dundee United, but not only that, finish above them in the league table?
Yeah, after last season, being 3 points behind them, regrettably, I'm really feeling like this time round could be. I'm not going to say the time because, I mean, let's be honest, we know about the Dundee teams. We're chopping and changing every week, like it was like the end of last season. But yeah, no, I really feel like we can do it this year. And I said earlier on that I wanted to give you the boring answer about maybe not finishing top 6 and say it's too early to tell, but there's something deep inside of me saying it's going to happen this year. Absolutely.
I actually want to ask Robbie and Alex, and maybe even you, Kwani, this is a question for like all of you. Do you think the quality for the top 6 is probably the lowest it's been this season? There's a real chance for like any team to walk into that? Because Hearts is like, I know they got a 4-0 victory, kind of a wee bit you could say they maybe not going to be as good as our last season. Dundee United, they do one thing good and they go 2 steps back. Motherwell, probably the team that's still going to stay up there. Rangers and Celtic's always going to be up there, but Hibs got a win today. Do you feel, Rob, I'll ask you this question first. Do you feel this is the lowest quality it's been maybe a long time for the top 6?
I think you could look at it that way, and I certainly do agree. I think a lot of the quality drop off in teams is going to be big, but it's only natural when teams have so good seasons that they're going to lose quality. I think Hearts is probably a prime example of that. I think Hearts probably will be a top 6 side again, but you can't doubt they've lost a lot of big players. But I'd also look at it on the flip side. Our teams are actually starting to strengthen in the bottom 6 now. The relegation battle is probably as hard as it's ever been to try and predict. I don't think there's any clear-cut team, although you'd maybe look at Kilmarnock after the day and maybe think them. But I genuinely don't see a favourite to go down right now. And that can't be said for even last season. I think Livingston probably were clear away the favourites to get relegated. Yeah. So I think you can look at it that way. I think some of the quality overall's probably dropped off a bit, but I think Scottish football is definitely strengthened, and I think there is a lot more quality, a lot more attacking quality as well. I love it. I love seeing, Neil McCann, he's lost 5-1, but he's went for the game. Craig McLeish versus Simo Valakari, 2 attacking managers. Stephen Presley, I think I really like Presley. In fact, I know he was the laughing stock for a good bit in Scottish football, but I really like the way he conducts his team. So I look at it both ways.
Can I caveat that question before we go to you, Alex, for the top 6 thing? A lot of Kilmarnock fans is kind of angry with Neil McCann for the way he's set up today, and even Neil McCann said that the blame's totally on him. Is there a caveat to be like, maybe against the Glasgow clubs, maybe just, sit in, even if it is a 2-0 defeat and you don't go all out, at least because that goal difference can play in a lot to the end of the season? Because like you said, I feel like I agree with you, the bottom 6 clubs, any of them could get relegated, which is absolutely mental to say. So there is a caveat to that maybe, sometimes managers might want to be like a Pep and just go all out attack and just that's their way of playing. But like Alex kind of touched on, basically, sometimes you need a plan B. Going to St Mirren and getting a point is actually a good point after the way they played against Falkirk. So there is obviously a caveat. But Alex, I want to say to you, obviously twice in a row that the newly promoted teams finished top 6 this season. Kind of looks maybe a wee bit harder. Do you think there's a wee bit maybe lesser quality in the league this season, or is it maybe teams have actually strengthened and it's much more even?
I think it's a bit of both, to be honest with you. I think I've noticed over the years, like the teams in the Premiership, like certainly when last time we were in, they seem to be like up their game, like turn the volume levels up a bit. When in the quality of the players that they've got in the club and that I think it's going to be the quality is definitely there. Yes, you've big losses from the players in the clubs, but key quality players. But then it's trying to try and replenish them, and then having that same or even quality. I think it's going to be hard to predict what's going to happen. Touching what Robbie's saying, like certainly in that bottom 6. I think with all the different coaches and the different style of play and everything, it's going to be really, really interesting, and it's really fascinating. I'm really, really enjoying it at the moment and learning from. I'm going off topic here, but like learning from each different manager, including mine as well, and how we're approaching games now, and how we're setting up, and just getting those. It's really, I find it really incredible, to be honest. So it's gonna. I'm just so happy to be in the Premiership right now. So it's all good, yeah.
Quarry, I want to ask a question to you, and it might be in your mind absolutely ludicrous, but do you not think it's going to be inevitable the way Aberdeen has been buying players, recruiting managers, the way they've been doing over the course of, say, 5-6 years? Do you think it's the way the quality is going in the league, it's kind of inevitable if Aberdeen still continue to do the same mistakes that they eventually do get relegated?
No. I don't want to say the cursed way. They're too big to go down. It's like a Tottenham thing. It's they are inevitably when it comes down. If there's a chance they're going to go down, they'll do what they've always done. They'll get rid of the manager. They'll get someone in to steady the ship. They'll fix it. I do think going back to what you were just saying about the top six and the bottom six. Yes, I think. I wouldn't say necessarily the quality's got better. I think the league's gotten closer. Outside the old firm, I think everyone's getting closer than they were. If you go back a couple of years, there was, the top two at the top, and then you've probably got Hearts, Aberdeen, Hibs, sometimes Dundee United. That would be like your next mini league, and then you'll have kind of the rest below. I don't think that's the case anymore. I think it really is a case of it's a 2-team league at the top and then a 10-team league below that. But no, I don't think. Realistically, last season, yeah, that was probably the closest we came to going down, but I don't think it was ever realistically going to happen.
Rob, obviously we kind of spoke about it before we actually went on recording that Stephen Presley, there's been some people tilting him for the Scotland job. Do you think that could be a massive derail in Dundee's season if he does actually go that way?
After seeing the comments, personally, I've been sleepless at nights, really hoping he won't leave. I think it probably would. I mean, we've never had a manager like this, I don't think, in recent history. And the way he plays and the way he's built his team, I mean, you've seen he had Yogan working for us really well, and he's gone to Aberdeen and he's got hooked at half time every game he's played. So I can't see a manager coming in after Presley's left and continuing what we've got. I think it would be really, really hard.
Would you say Presley's better than Tony Dock?
Yes. With the caveat of we concede about half the amount of goals. I mean, you can't have a functioning team conceding 78 goals a season. It's unthinkable.
I don't know if I'm completely wrong on this, but did Tony Dock not get Dundee top 6?
No, you are
Or
correct. No, you're right. That was his first season in charge. And
so how
after
can
that,
Stephen Presley be better? But
it's more of a style of play thing. And I think when this season comes through, obviously last season he had his bedding in period, and as opposed to like loaning players like Tony Dock did, he's trying to buy players, build them up, and build a squad more than Tony Dock came in to do a job. And I really think that he will garner the results given a bit of time.
well, obviously, Kwani and Robbie, I think you're going up again this weekend. I think it is, the Premier Sports Cup, Aberdeen, Dundee. Rob, are you fully confident going up to Pittodrie and getting a result? Albeit, I think you did go up there last time and won by 2-1.
I would say I'm fully confident, but we're a good 80-90%. I'm buzzing for it, and I'm really excited.
Kwani, how are you feeling going up to that cup tie? Do you think if Dundee actually knocks out Aberdeen in the Premier Sports Cup up at Pittodrie, do you think that the fan pressure gets even louder for Stephen Robinson?
I think it will get you louder, yeah. Whether the board will listen, if it's just pressure on the manager, I don't think so. What keeps my sanity a little bit is if you look at last season, we played Motherwell, second game of the season, absolutely horrific. We got beat 1-0 that day. We played them the next week in the League Cup, and we beat them out. So there is that. You never know what Aberdeen team's going to turn up. It's been like that for a while now. So, I think the most important thing is improvement. The fans need to get behind the team first and foremost. On Saturday, the fans did turn on the team far too quickly. Robinson said this when he came in. How would you perform at your work if you just got told you were shit every day? You wouldn't perform particularly well. You know what I mean? You need to get behind players. You need to treat them with a bit of love. Yes, I'm not against people venting their frustration at halftime and full time by booing people off the park. Yeah, that sometimes need to be said, but they need to be with the team. They need to be encouraging. They need to tell people that they're good at what they're doing, and help them over the line that way with encouragement.
I feel like Stephen Robson's just similar to Jim Goodwin's position, but if you can finish fourth, lose the first game of the season, I still think that people are wanting them to go. I just feel like it's a situation where the only way it works is the board gets rid of him. Albeit I don't agree with that. It just feels like the fans didn't want him there to begin with. No matter what he does, unless he wins a cup or the league title, which it could be a little favour right now. So do you feel like the board's just delaying the inevitable?
No, I think he will get time, and I think if they can go on a run of not winning every game, but as long as they're not stringing defeats together, and if we can get a couple of wins in the league, get in the top six and stay in the top six, fans will be behind them. Our big game will be the Rangers game. That's on 2 weeks' time, I think it is. 3 weeks' time. We're supposed to play Motherwell first. He goes and wins that game. He'll be loved. You know what I mean? There's big games coming up, and if he wins them, that'll be worth more than beating a Dundee or beating a Kilmarnock. You beat Rangers at Pittodrie, the fans will be with you then.
Robbie, you obviously play Rangers this weekend. Obviously, they did lose 2-1 at Hibs today. Do you feel this is a side that St Mirren can actually capitalise on and walk away into the next round?
I can't wait to go Ibrox. I'm going to be honest. I'm absolutely buzzing to be playing Rangers when we're playing them, because I've got a sneaky feeling Thursday night might not go as Rangers fans hope, and Rangers typically don't tend to do well with the European games. So I think we've bought the best time to play Rangers, and I know we play them in the league, I think 2 weeks after the cup game. So if their bad form continues, then I'll be even more buzzing. But it's a cup game. I think you spoke about Jordan earlier. Managers maybe just having to be a wee bit more balanced in their game plan and be a wee bit more defensive. I hope McLeish isn't. I hope we go to Ibrox and we're that high pressing side, and we all try to trap them in their own half, and we all try to win the ball back up the park. If we can frighten Rangers in that way and we can take our chances, I think we could be on to a winner at Ibrox. And of course, I'm optimistic. I'm always going to say that, but nothing for what I've seen for Rangers now gives me the fear playing Rangers. And I think the longer we can keep the game going on, still in it, the more toxic it's going to become at Ibrox. If not, it might already be toxic. I mean, if they lose to Biostock on Thursday night, then the place is going to be pretty edgy for the get-go. So I'm more than confident going to Ibrox so we can get something. On the flip side, if Rangers get an early goal, you never know, it could go the complete opposite way. But I know I'm optimistic as ever, Jordan. You know that.
I'm actually taking in that timestamp so I can pronounce that Polish team's right on Thursday, because that's an absolute bell end of a team name to pronounce. But
just go
Alex, Alex, obviously St Johnstone isn't playing for 3 weeks, is it? Is that a positive or a negative for St Johnstone?
I think it's a bit of both. I think it's like, we want to build momentum going into the league and that, and those moments don't help, but it gives us a chance to refocus back on the training pitch and giving the players time, and they'll be playing like friendly games and that with other teams, no doubt. I think it gives I think it's like a mini sort of just like a mini break, just to see where we are and get those signings in the door before the transfer window shuts, and get our style of playing going. And I think it's maybe a good thing, but obviously as a Saints fan, I really want the games to come, through thick and you know what I mean, like quick quickly as they come, as they say. But I think it's a good chance for the Simo, the coaching staff, and the players to get their just get some ideas together, and Simo to keep experimenting again. And I think we're going to be fine. I think we're going to be fine. It's just we've picked up 3 points. We've got our first win at home, and a away defeat. So yeah, I think we'll be all right. Just I know we will. So
I want to play devil advocate here, right, with you, because the teams who obviously, I think it's only you and Falkirk that's not in the Premier Sports Cup. Those other teams are going to be playing games. They've obviously got Celtic, Rangers, and Hearts and Hibs and Mull playing European games and top of the league games. They're going to be 2-3 weeks extra of match sharpness. Is that not like a worry for you, especially being a newly promoted team, that teams have got a massive advantage over you like early on into the season?
I think it is, Jordan. I think it is, because they've got they've got their style of play already going, and they're picking up results. And I just feel like if because we've got a 3 week spell now, and I'm like, oh, if it is a bit of a concern. Well, it is a concern actually, and I've already it's disappointing that we're not in the Scottish League Cup, but it's we have to focus on the Premiership and then later on the Scottish Cup. But I just feel the momentum it's I think it's going to cut short, and we're going to slowly build back up again. Again, as I mentioned to you, we're going to be inconsistent. You don't know what you're going to get with St Johnstone. I know it myself and my fellow fans as well. It's really tough to say. We just have to go with it.
Well, I'll do a recap and Rob, your shite bag. I'm going to put you on the spot first of all with the score predictions. You can't get a born answer now. What's the score prediction going to be at Pittodrie this weekend?
Oh, 3-1 Dundee.
Robbie, we'll go with your score prediction for Rangers.
2-1 St Mirren after extra time.
Wow. And Kwani, had a response back to that score prediction. What's your score prediction?
Don's on pens.
Oof.
Wow, go for it all the way. Well, also, I can't ask you, Alex, because you don't really have a team to play, so we will just skip over you. But this is obviously part one into the segment. We'll be talking about Kilmarnock and Celtic and Mull and Falkirk, even though there probably won't be much to talk about in that game tomorrow. But yeah, before you also dive into part two, hit that like button, subscribe, and if you are listening over on Spotify, hit that follow button. It's very much appreciated. But until now, I'll see you all from part two. Hello, ladies and gents, and welcome back to the Tartan Stand. This is part two of this segment where we will be talking about Kilmarnock and Celtic and obviously Mull and Falkirk. They'll kind of put out the Falkirk fans, so it will just be Kyle, but we'll be briefly talk about the Falkirk side of things as well. But before we dive into it, boys, how are we all doing?
Aye, grand, mate. The unbeaten streak for us against Falkirk continues on.
Coops is also going to be depressed, but Coops, obviously it was the first game, so we all go into that one, Kilmarnock against Celtic. This is going to be a wee bit of a mental thing to say, but was there anything positive you can take from that game going into the Friday night game against Ayr United?
Oh yeah, I mean, if you take away the initial goal, the period, probably the 20 minutes or so after that goal, we kind of matched up to Celtic. We had our moments. If we had that wee bit of quality, I think Kilty put a ball across, from 3 yards, across the goal mouth, that just needed that wee touch. There was another chance that was close, and then if Eric Ring had got his pass through to Hugo just that wee bit better, he was through on goal, and it would have been one each. It would have been a different game. I mean, the minute you lose 2 goals in quick succession, I think it was 32 and 34 minutes, and you're 3 down at half time, the game's done at that point. And then if you take our goal to make it, I think it was 4-0 at the time, to make it 4-1. If you took that in isolation, then you can see what Kilmarnock are wanting to do going forward. I mean, don't get me started on McCann's decision about how he set Kilmarnock up in the first place, but yeah, there are some positives. It's the first time I've seen the new park on the new pitch, and I mean that it's stunning. when you see it. I don't know if you guys were down at Rugby Park, and Kyle, if you're coming down for when Motherwell come down, I mean, it looks better in person than it does on the TV. It's a stunning piece of kit. So you got to put the kudos to Billy Bowie and the rest of the guys. I think it was 1.5 to 1.7 million he spent on it, and you can see it. But yeah, and it comes to the actual team, I mean, that's pretty much as much as you can say in regards to the positives. Unless you're going to start talking about individual players, but as a collective, that's probably as far as you can go.
No, I want to talk about Neil McCann, but because you kind of briefly did speak about it, he said after the game, the faults all on him, etc. Which, fair enough, he's taking accountability for it. But would you not want to see him change it rather than see it, like talk about it after the game? You're 3-0 down at half time, maybe just take the loss, like shut up a wee bit, or even if you go 2-0 down, do a wee bit of a slight change. Obviously, losing an early goal might not be able to help that, but it just felt like it was the same system. It was just be brave. It was always 3v3, at the back. It just felt Celtic was very easily cutting it apart, especially with Casper Ho up there with his physicality. Do you wish Neil McCann changed it rather than just spoke about it?
Well, yeah, and Neil needs to watch, because we were chatting a couple of the guys in the group chat about his time at Dundee, and he played the similar sort of system. It was very much, I want to play this attacking forward type football, and I think his record was something like scored 67, conceded 97 over a course of 85 games. That's never going to be sustainable. And he never played the diamond in the second half of that season, and other than the Aberdeen loss, like, we were unstoppable in those last 4 games at the split. I think, it was like 4-1, 3-0, 3-1. We looked good, and it wasn't a diamond he played then, because he played Kilty behind Hugel up front in his own with the 4 along the midfield. When you go to St Johnstone away, who have just come up in the Championship, and they put 4 in against you, you don't play at home to the champions. And let's face it, Celtic are a step above everybody in the league. They've spent £11 million on one player. Kilmarnock haven't spent £11 million in their existence cumulatively and all the players that they've bought. You just don't do it. And you're right. Like, he should. If I think the way that I would have thought it was, if you got the team in at 1-0 at half time, then you change it and you think, right, let's move it to a kind of more traditional 4-4-2, or even a 4-4-1-1, I think, is kind of how he played at the end of the season, with Kilty sitting just behind Hugo and feeding them through. If you do it that way, then you've got a chance to nick something, or at least not allow. Every time we went forward with our wing backs being almost up at the Celtic's end, we had 2 players back. And Utheko is a good-looking unit of a boy, but that was his first start, and he's only been at the club about a week and a half. So I don't understand the logic. Everybody could see that it's not going to work, and he should have changed it. And yes, it's nice that he decided to come out and go, yeah, that's on me. But why did he leave it to be... For us to now go into the Ayrshire derby, which is probably for a lot of fans one of the bigger games of the season already, on the back of a 5-1 defeat to Celtic, and yes, you would most of us that aren't Old Firm fans, you kind of take the Celtic and Rangers games in isolation to a degree. You're like, right, they should beat us, but we hopefully can have a performance, keep it close. When we played Rangers a couple of seasons back, we kept it 0-0 till 80-something minutes, scored the goal by Marley Watkins, won the game. Kind of how you want to play against Celtic, especially the kind of teams at the lower end of the table. But he didn't. He wanted to keep this ethos and this type of play, and you're like, we're 4-0 down. And the only goal that you could really not legislate against was the 4th one, because that was just a full-on goalkeeping blunder. The rest of them were things that should have been managed better. And he's brought in a lot of midfielders, because we've got Kilty, you've got Lowry, Kilty, we've got Declan, Bailey Rice, we've got O'Hara, we've got a lot of midfielders, but Tishbola, we've got a lot of midfielders sitting about, and you need to, what's the system we're playing? Tyrese, John Joe's a striker, brilliant striker, but with the type of injury he had, he's way off it. He's still no match fit. So bring him on in the second half. We'll keep Hugo up front with the pace. Use Kilty, again, another midfielder. And use that midfield, because we've got the quality in midfield. Lowry and Kilty are great players, and they worked their socks off even when you were 4-5-1 down. I just don't get it, and I really hope that he looks back over those 2 games, realises that it's not sustainable, and moves to a more kind of traditional 4-4-1-1 or a 4-4-2. We've got decent wingers. We've got decent players in it, but it's the system that's going to kill us if he doesn't swallow a bit of the humble pie and realise that there's a time and a place. You can play the diamond against maybe your St Mirrens, your St Johnstones at home, your Falkirks. There's other teams to play that against that we can match up to pace for pace. Maybe even Motherwell to an extent. You don't do it against Celtic. You don't do it against Rangers. Arguably, probably Hearts. They're the kind of 3 teams you really don't want to do that against. And I don't understand why he felt we could, because no team in the league is going to match up to Celtic and an £11 million striker, especially when you give him 18 yards space in the box 3 times. You know.
Kyle, we won't go into them a little bit aside. Kind of always briefly talk about it before we went on stream, but do you think these types of games can be a problem for Motherwell straight after Europe, especially against a hard team like Helsinki?
Aye, definitely. I think it all came down to fatigue on Sunday, and we didn't look at, obviously might be a bit of a Helsinki hangover, but I don't want to blame the European ties a lot because the league is just as important. But actually, I don't think we played too bad. Like, I feel we actually were the unlucky team to not come away with the 3 points. We created the better chances. Bear in mind there was only like 2 or 3 chances to actually talk upon, but no, I feel like we were unfortunate, but yeah, again, like, just couldn't finish.
You say always about the chances, you really said there was only 2 or 3, but is there enough creativity in this squad to, they say, break down? I'm not going to say Falkirk's a team that sits back, but for that final third, they aren't at their best as of late, did lose to St Mirren quite comfortably. Is it not like a 2 points drop from Motherwell type of situation?
I would say so, because I feel like, especially in the second half, we created a lot, but just no end product in the final third, and that all comes down to, like, I know I keep banging on about this, but like no sort of like vocal number 9 up there, because the amount of times, like, I'm seeing it every week now, we're whipping balls into an empty box, and like Masonese is meant to be there, and he's either dragging at the edge of the box, or he's in the box, but he's never actually going to contest. So I know there's still a good few weeks left in the transfer window, and I feel like a lot of Motherwell fans will be behind me when I say that we are crying out for a striker, because I feel like if we do get that right number 9, we could have a really good season ahead of us, because the fact that we play is very expressive, and I think that's the literally missing piece that we're needing.
You could obviously say it's been, a year and a bit, maybe 2 years, Matt, pushing, if you want to say Mills have had a number 9 out and out. Is that not a red flag on the board that they still haven't got that position nullified yet?
I feel like there has been like recruitment over the past few years, obviously, but no one's really stood up to the name. It's unlucky with the boy we signed in January, Aitor Björgolfsson. He actually looked promising. Obviously, he scored a scissors kick against St Mirren, then got injured right away. It's a bit unfortunate for him, but I had high hopes for him. But no, I can get what you're saying with the poor recruitment in the past 2 years or so, because as I feel like the likes of like your Van Veens, Theo Bears, Louis Maltz, like Motherwell have always been known for like a good striker, and in the recent years when we actually play good football, it's the one thing we're lacking in.
Jamie, going over the Celtic game, I'm going to say this is probably the first game in a long time actually that Celtic showed attacking quality, intensity, control of the game. Obviously did one at 7 in a row after going in the split, but you went to say those performances might have not been the best. What impressed you the most with the Kilmarnock game yesterday in the 5-1 victory?
No, you're spot on, mate. Yesterday was the first time in such a long time that I was actually relaxed. You know what I mean? Getting into the second half, I was sitting there thinking, wow, it's been so long since we can think to ourselves, this game is wrapped up. Early doors here and stuff. What impressed me the most was just the first half performance. I thought it was unreal, man. You know, going forward particularly. You know, we did give Kilmarnock some opportunities, to be honest with you. A wee bit lack at the back, in my opinion, at times. There was one instance where Kilmarnock had a corner and they won all 3 headers, you know. And it was like, you know, Celtic, the way I think about it is, you know, if we play against top opposition in Europe or whatever, we will be punished for that, you know. And so there's a lot to learn yesterday as well. I don't want all Celtic fans to get a wee bit too ahead of themselves, because there was weaknesses in that team yesterday. However, going forward, it was just like night and day for what we've seen last season, you know. Camilo Duran down the right-hand side was just unreal, you know. He was getting into space constantly. You know, and obviously big Casper up front, his movement is just unbelievable. I mean, he was getting criticised after the first game because he didn't score a goal, but you know, he made 4 opportunities for himself in that game and he missed them all. But you know, what I was saying was last season, let's Fee and Chara, for instance, he didn't even get in the positions, you know what I mean? We weren't even getting the opportunities. So I knew that they would come for Casper Ho, and you know, yesterday it was unbelievable. I think the Kilmarnock goalkeeper did do really well for you know, a lot of the opportunities that we did create, because it could have been a lot more if it wasn't for him. You know, I think a Nigrin shot and stuff like that came off the bar and all that kind of stuff. But I mean, just the all-round movement, the commitment, the desire, everything. And you know, somebody said that in a group chat earlier on that I think they done it for Martin O'Neill. I think there was definitely an element of that they were trying to do it for the manager, you know.
I want to talk about Engels because there's been a lot of talk about him at West Ham. He had probably one of his best games in a Celtic jersey on Sunday. Is this a play that Celtic needs to keep, or is it, you know, he does do it maybe, in my opinion, 1 game every 5, and probably it's still probably best to actually sell him on if West Ham obviously meets Celtic's valuation?
I thought he was outstanding yesterday, actually. If it wasn't for Casper getting a hat-trick, I'd have given man of the match to Engels. Definitely the best performance I've seen him in a Celtic jersey. You know, he was all over the park. He was, you know, getting people into space. He was strong. But I'm just of the opinion, see if he wants to go and then we get good money for him, just let him go. I don't want anybody at the club that doesn't want to be there, you know. Same way goes for Alistair Johnston or whatever. If these guys have got ambition to go down to England or go, you know, elsewhere and, you know, make more money and better their career and all that, I'm all for it, you know what I mean? As long as we get the correct money for them and stuff. I don't want to keep Arnie Engels if Arnie Engels doesn't want to be at Celtic. And, you know, who could blame him for wanting to go down there and, you know, quadruple his wages, no doubt, you know what I mean? And play at a higher level, albeit maybe know that next season in the Championship, but, you know, West Ham will probably go up into the Premier League. But I thought he was outstanding yesterday, but I thought everybody, to be honest with you, to a man, was excellent. You know, you mentioned Kilmarnock earlier on. I mean, I do agree that they probably did go a wee bit too gung-ho against Celtic. But I thought there was promising signs for Kilmarnock as well, to be honest with you. I think that they did create chances, like I say, in the first half and stuff like that. And I don't think Kilmarnock will be in trouble. Neil McCann will learn for this. We've got to remember, he was out of the game for a long time as well. So he's still maybe trying to readjust and learn, you know, game by game, how to tackle things and stuff, do you know what I mean? But once Kilmarnock came up against St Mirren's and, you know, no disrespect to St Mirren's and all that, but, you know, the lower teams, that's when Kilmarnock will be judged, do you know what I mean? But I thought they were actually all right yesterday. Apart from, you know, defensively, they were pretty poor. And you can't legislate for individual errors, you know. Like the 4th goal was 3x fault. Very good finish for Nigrin, by the way. I think that's getting underestimated. Wasn't an easy finish. And then, you know, the first couple of goals in that as well, I just thought Kilmarnock were a bit sloppy and stuff. But once they pick up and learn for that, man, they'll be fine.
Yeah, I mean, before Jordan, we jump in, defensively, the biggest problem we have is it's a makeshift back 4 because we didn't have Deasy for the first couple of games. Stanger is a good defender, but he needs a solid co-pilot with him. He's not somebody who's going to lead the line. And we've got Deasy coming back in. There is rumour, and I think I mentioned it on our group chat as well, that apparently we're about to sign Grant Hanley for a season on loan from Hibs. And I've seen that on Twitter again from, I think it was St Johnstone analyst has made a comment about it. So there has to be some kind of conversation going around if they're picking up on it. Now, I know when we hear Grant Hanley, we talk about Scottish games and Scotland games and certain things, he has his moments, but to be honest, the more I think about it, the Grant Hanley type of player, a player that's played a good handful of games in defence and been around the block, he knows it's a no-nonsense kind of defender that will get rid of it and just, he'll be a good partner. And I think that's what we need when we've got Ufeko, who's 23. We've got a young left back, right back called Jonathan Mayer, who's 26. Deasy's in his mid-20s. Stanger's early 20s. I think Larsson's kind of the same. Larsson's probably the only person that's came out with Scotland into here and matched up. The biggest disappointment for me just now is Jamie Brandon, because he was Livingston's captain and he doesn't seem to understand left back, and that's his position. He's a bit like he's like Kilmarnock's Engels in a sense, where last season he was outstanding when we beat Hearts, where Derek McInnes lost the league at Rugby Park. Oh, the tears. When we beat them 1-0, he was outstanding. But you have 2 or 3 games like the Celtic game where he gets caught in possession and then he panics and loses the ball. And so yeah, I don't know if that's what you were going to say, Jordan, but there are some positives in the way that the way that McCann wants to play. And you're right, he will learn from it. He has no choice. The biggest problem is, for the Kilmarnock support, we've lost 9 goals in 2 games, one of them being the team that's just been promoted. If McCann does not get a good result against Ayr, now we're not talking a scrappy 1-2-1 win or 1-0 against Ayr on Friday, the fans are on his back, and that's a problem. Because our next game after that's away to Hibs, and I don't think we've beat Hibs away from home since Chris Boyd scored way back in like 2013 when we almost got to get us away from the playoffs. I think that was when Terry Butcher managed Hibs and got them relegated. So, and then we've got 2 games against Dundee United and St Mirren at home. So that's the problem we have for McCann. I think he will be fine, but Friday's a big thing. It's almost at this point in the season a must win for him and for the fans to respect him. The way that he's played and the way he's setting out, he has to change the system and he has to get that one, regardless of anything else, of what his ethos is and how he wants to play within his team. He has to figure it out. And we know he's got something, because look at the way Kilmarnock performed once it clicked. The problem is how long it takes for things to click, because this league is far too tight. We didn't win a game for about 14 games or something round about that, something stupid. And we were never bottom of the league last season, even though we never won for that long. This year, if any team goes on 3 or 4 games without a win or a draw, they're at the bottom. It's just because it's so tight. St Johnstone have got enough about them, but they're still a bit lacking in defence. We're a bit wobbly in defence. Falkirk have lost a lot of good spine of their team. Aberdeen's performances the last couple of games have been absolutely horrible. Dundee look like they've kind of sorted themselves out. So there's a lot. We're all much of a muchness at that bottom end of the table. So, yeah, I think McCann really needs to figure it out pretty soon.
Well, I guess I'm going to know your answer because you kind of briefly did speak about it, but is there a lot of pressure on Kilmarnock on Friday night? Because Ayr United have started the season brilliantly under Gary Naismith. Is this a result, like you said, if it is a 1-0 victory and Ayr United caused problems in the last 10-15 minutes of the game and people really only focus on that last 10-15 minutes, is there like a lot of pressure on Kilmarnock to, obviously as rivals you want to win, but especially being a division above, it's like we need to get a victory here?
Yeah, I mean, the pressure will always be on the Premier League team, because regardless of any kind of how people's form is and things, the Premier League team's expected to win it, and we're at home, so we're expected to do it. The issue we have is with the way we've defended. Is somebody like Naismith, who's coaching Aberdeen, Ayr at the now, sees how that back 4 runs. Are they going to put that pressure on that back 4, and are we going to see mistakes early on? And if the crowd aren't, if Rugby Park's crowds start getting on the back of Kelly's team, are they going to be able to stand up to it? That's the issue. I mean, I will caveat the 1-0 statement I made there, but if it's like one of those 1-0s that could have been 4 or 5 and we just didn't take our opportunities, I think we'll be fine, because you'd be like, yeah, we probably should have scored 4, but we hit the bar twice, we hit the post, they never had a shot the whole second half. It was just one of those times where it didn't go in. if we skate to a 1-0 win, yeah, the people that aren't happy with McCann, there was a lot of chat during the Celtic game about the way he set it up, and as you touched on, the fact that he didn't change it during the game and think, like, we need to kind of be a bit more pragmatic. That are starting to think, yeah, you had credit in the bank, but this isn't going to work. We've already lost 9 goals and scored 4. We're at the bottom of the table on goal difference because of that. Well, by a point, but goal difference is a big deal, and it's going to be a big deal this season. So, yeah, there's a lot. There's more pressure on McCann than I think McCann wants to admit to and accept at this early on in the season. And I know from the Kilmarnock fans, we need to come away with a win, and I think most of them would want to see us win really well. And Ayre's not going to allow that to happen. That's the thing.
Kyle, we'll kind of briefly speak about Falkirk because obviously Dell's not here, but do you think taking a point at Fir Park, albeit, last season it was kind of, easy for Falkirk, let's say, to not lose at Fir Park, do you think it's a result that they can actually build a point into their season, especially losing the first game of the season?
For them, yeah, definitely, because it's the same as like us and like Hearts. Their team's been like kind of torn apart in the summer, and I think I was talking to Dale and he was saying that like there was a predominantly young squad out there on Sunday, so I feel like that's something that like their team as a whole can actually work on and like take from that. So I think, well, I can't really speak for any Falkirk fans, but in my opinion, I feel like that'd be a good fight for them.
Coops, I'll go back. I feel, in my opinion, Falkirk's going to be bottom 6 with potential with Kilmarnock. Do you think, it's a team where they could have that second season syndrome and kind of help, the base teams like the Kilmarnocks and, the St Mirrens and the Dundees has obviously been round about there. Do you think that second season syndrome can hinder them a lot? Coops.
Oh, sorry, what were you saying?
I was talking about Falkirk and like maybe that second season syndrome. Do you think that could hinder them a lot, and Kilmarnock and the Dundee and Aberdeens can take advantage of that, being in the Premiership for a good wee while and not obviously having that, lack of confidence, etc. They can actually be like, okay, we're going for a tough patch, like the Stuart Kettlewell period, and we can get out of it. Do you think for Falkirk could be a wee bit of a less bit there, especially being a young squad?
I think the biggest thing for Falkirk is the players they've lost. You just can't bring them in with the budget that like Kilmarnock, Falkirk have. They were kind of one of those the players that came in last season and did what they did. They were just lucks. It's a bit like your Kevin Van Veens at Motherwell, who they just found that bit and it just clicked for them for a few months. I mean, Van Veen's done fuck all since. So especially that time at Kilmarnock, my God. So. Yeah, I think it will be difficult. I mean, you saw Dundee United came back up. They were in top 6 flying. They barely, they had a struggle last season. They had some really poor results. We beat them, drew with them away from home, and I mean, Kilmarnock winning away from home is pretty rare thing. So when you're a team at home and Kilmarnock come up, you think you're going to get something. So. Yeah, I don't see Falkirk getting anywhere near what they did last season. Part of me wonders whether McGlynn maybe could have thought about moving on, because what do you do? You've got them. He's got them up, got them to top 6 the first year up. Where do you go as a Falkirk manager, other than kind of you're either going to go up and then you're going to be back at the bottom, and then potentially you could end up back down again, and you're ruining that legacy of what he's done to get them there. And maybe Falkirk need that fresh injection and that change of ideas, and maybe a younger coach to come in with something different. I don't know, but I do have a bit of a worry when I saw the St Mirren game and how they played there, and the fact that they kind of drew with Motherwell. I do have my concerns, but again, as Kyle said earlier, we've still got a wee bit to go in the transfer market, so maybe you'll find a couple of gems that will help them stay away from that kind of bottom part of the table. I mean, I don't really have much to say in regards to Kilmarnock's performance at the bottom half of the table now. So, when I talk about Falkirk, I caveat that by, I understand where Kilmarnock are, but with the Falkirk game, especially St Mirren, they just struggled defensively and had nothing creatively. We have the problem of defensively we're awful, but going forward, every time we go forward, and I'm talking about Kilmarnock, there's a chance, there's something, because we've got that outlet, we've got Kelty, we've got Ring. When John Jules gets back onto it, we saw the goals he scored. Hugo's got a bit of pace on him, so we've got that to fall back on. We just need to figure ourselves out at the back. So yeah, there's definitely some concerns if I was a Falkirk fan.
Jamie, obviously, Coops and Kilkenny spoke about the transfer market. We both know the way the Celtic board think. Do you think that type of performance can make the Celtic board be like, we don't really need to actually strengthen that much, maybe just bring in one more player rather than the 4 and 5s? Is that a worry to you?
That's a good question, mate. I'm thinking that exactly. It's the exact same thing today, mate. You know, that could be the worst thing that's ever happened to us yesterday, absolutely destroying them, because, you know, the Celtic board might look at it and go, well, it's not that bad, is it? You know, show cheese. But I really hope no, because there is still a lot of work to be done. You know, we need a left back. We need a winger. It looks like Hussein Hassan is coming in. So that is good. And it's actually for quite a surprising price, because I've seen over the last few weeks, you know, it was going to go up to like 11 million euros, but apparently it's only 6 and it's going to be 5.2 million. So, I mean, I'm happy with that, you know what I mean? And there's still plenty of money in the bank if Arnie Ingles does move on for the money that's been spoke about and stuff. But you know, there could be an element of that, you know, that we've got enough, especially, you know, we've got these Champions League qualifiers coming up. It might just be, we've got enough to get us through that, but we really don't. We do need, I think there's only 3 days left now to register players. I'm hoping Hassan signs tomorrow, get that done, and then like I say, we definitely need a left back, we need another winger, we need a central mid. So I mean, there is still about 3 or 4 positions still to be filled there. Everybody keeps going on that. I mean, I do understand it. Everybody keeps going on about how the amount of players that we've lost compared to the amount of players we've brought in. I think it's like 16 have went and 2 have come in. But out of those 16 players, there's only really 1 that was like ever going to ever be anywhere near the Celtic team, and that was Maida. Everybody else was bit part players and loanees, and, you know, like Narovsky and Stephen Welsh and all this kind of stuff. So it's not as if we need to replace all 16. Do you know what I mean? But we do need numbers to help the squad and stuff like that. A lot of the people that spoke about as well, the 16 were actual loans. Do you know what I mean? Like Svi and Charan and Vuku and all this. So guys who were never anywhere near it anyway. You know what I mean? So we do need players to help. But I mean, I think we only need about another 3, to be honest. I think 3, and I think Celtic will be done.
I'm going to ask a question to everyone here, and it's, I know football changes a lot, I know history changes a lot, but I don't want to be cheeky to the other clubs, but it feels like Celtic's the Barcelona in this league, and it feels like every other team's just like Espanyol. Will Celtic's dominance like ever end in, say, like next 10, 15 seasons, or do you just think it's just going to be an utter complete whitewash? Jamie, I'll start with you because you're the Celtic fan. Do you think Rangers and Hearts can topple Celtic anytime soon, or do you just think it's going to be the norm that most Celtic fans grow up on, and it's like at least get a treble?
When it comes to the league, I think it's going to be a long time before anybody does it. I mean, last season, I'm hoping that Celtic took that as a shot in the arm to change things up and, you know, try and progress again. I mean, that was a terrible Celtic team last season, and we won a double. So, you know, if we go to the next level again, which I'm hoping it looks like we are, because, you know, yesterday's performance, spending £11 million on strikers and stuff, you know, it looks as if we might be going back to that level again. And once we get back to that level, I think it's going to be really difficult for anybody to catch us. I think last season was the big opportunity for teams, you know, Hearts and Rangers, to try and get anywhere near Celtic. But, you know, it's all to do with finances, isn't it? You know what I mean? Tony Bloom's obviously in there at Hearts and stuff, but they need to spend a lot of money if they want to get anywhere near it. And, you know, they've just let Kariutis go for 1.7 million, which I was surprised about. And that's a low figure for him, I thought. You know, Braga's going to end up moving on into it. You know, Shankland and obviously McInnes not have all went to Rangers and stuff. But, you know, looking at the Rangers' performance yesterday as well, I compare it to a wee bit like, you know, Spurs at the moment. It's like Spurs can go out and buy all the players all they want, but there's a culture that there's, you know, Rangers are used to losing now. You know what I mean? That is just the thing that's in their mind, is like we lose. You know, it's a losing mentality because Celtic have dominated for so long. Do you know what I mean? And, you know, you could just tell it in the nerves and everything yesterday when the ball was going forward into the Rangers' defence, look nervy and stuff like that. You know what I mean? So I think it's a whole culture thing that needs to change at Rangers if the Rangers want to get back to where they were and stuff. Don't get me wrong, I think Derek McInnes will improve them eventually, but it needs time. But you know what it's like, mate. You know what I mean? You don't get time at Celtic and Rangers. You need to win football matches. But to answer your question, mate, I think that Celtic will probably dominate for the next 5-10 years again, to be honest with you. I don't really think anybody's going to come close.
Kyle, obviously, I'm not going to say Motherwell can obviously go for the league, etc. But I seen a tweet today, and I don't know who made it, so I wish I could have shouted them out. But there's some truth to it. People, obviously, Rangers have the name; they're a massive club, they've got the achievements. But realistically, if you think about it, over the past 2 decades, you can say they're basically just like an Aberdeen and Dundee United, win one trophy every 5 years. Do you not think you can actually close that gap down to second place? I know the finances is still massively different, but it used to be first and second, whoever fights for fourth. But sometimes there's a question now, like last season, like maybe second place can be up for grabs if everything obviously does click.
I no, like to touch on what Jamie was saying, like financially, like money's like a big thing in this league. But I also get what you're saying. Like I think last season my eyes opened and realised that like anyone can actually like challenge for this league. But obviously, I think Celtic will always come up on top. Fair enough to them. But no, and to touch on the Rangers situation, I feel like I don't even think they're going to get second because I think appointing Derek McInnes alone was very bold because he's not a born winner. See, if you want to be Rangers or a Celtic manager, you need to have trophies to back yourself. Like he's not a born winner, and I get he's getting past with Rangers or whatever, but I just feel like it was a really poor appointment for Rangers. And I know I'm a Motherwell fan, so I might get slighted for saying that, but I'm entitled to my opinion. But no, to answer your question, I feel like anyone could challenge for that second place spot after obviously the season that Hearts did. Anyone's ball game.
We'll do like a wee match recap and we will go over the score predictions. Coops, we'll start with you. I think this is a Friday night game. What's your score prediction for the massive derby on Friday?
I want to say it'd be a good 2-0 for Kelly. But I don't know why I'm saying 2-0 considering the defence we have. But, I'll go with that.
Kyle, obviously you play Steny, I think it is. Can that be a tricky tie for you, especially after another European game?
It all depends on how we line up because I feel like we will be rotating it. I don't know how much to the extent because we've not got that big a squad, but I would expect a couple of rotations, but I don't think it's a task that we should be really feeding. Yeah, if I eat my words in that, clip me all you want, but I feel like it's a pretty straightforward task.
What's your score prediction for the game?
Got to be like a 3-1 well.
Jamie, obviously Dundee United on Saturday night did look impressive against Rangers. Went back to reality when they get pumped 4-0 against Hearts. Do you think it's going to be a difficult tie at Tannadice? And what do you think your score prediction is going to be?
It will be difficult. I mean, cup tie into it, you know what I mean? We didn't have the best of times through in Dundee last season.
Yeah.
So it will be a tricky game, but I think we will narrowly get the win. I'll go 2-1 Celtic.
Well, thank you so much, lads, for coming on. If you're still watching us at this point in time, please hit that like button, subscribe. It is very much appreciated. And if you are following, obviously, on Spotify, hit that follow button as well. It's very much appreciated too. But as always, I'll see you all for part 3. All right, ladies and gents, and welcome back to the final segment of the Tartan Stand. We will also be discussing Rangers and Hibs and Dundee United and Hearts. The Hearts guy, Josh, did break his phone, so he was unfortunately unable to join us. But we will still be talking about Hearts, don't you worry. But lads, how are we all feeling today? We all feeling good?
Well, good here.
No.
Well, I think in my mind, right, it was Hearts and Dundee United that did kick us off first. So, Jay, we will speak about the Dundee United side of things, and I want to just ask a simple question. Was it more of a tactical problem, or was it more individual mistakes, or was simply Hearts just a better team in the day?
I think it was just just the players in general didn't look up for it at all.
Jim Goodwin kind of said something that obviously after a massive scoreline defeat, you're thinking, okay, if you scored and you've seen a lot more chances, it could be a caveat to that. But he says the 4-0 scoreline wasn't a fair reflection in the game. Do you agree with that?
Nah, it wasn't fair. It was 10 shots and 0 on target. It was absolutely terrible.
Is there, I know if you want to stick up for your players and that, you can see that, but do you not think that's an outlandish comment from the guy if there's literally nothing to back it up?
I would say so. It's a bit of a tricky one.
Well, obviously, I don't know if you were at the game, but you certainly did watch it. Is this a Hearts team that finally, from a performance, you can think they can actually challenge for third, or even better yet, try and split that old firm, or do you still think there's some holes in that team?
I think they can go for that top 3, but I don't think they'll challenge for the title this season.
Well, Jack and Dan, we'll go over to the main event. Yes, people may actually say the Rangers won. I want to get down to the Rangers side. Like, is the problem the manager, or is it the squad? Or realistically, I'm going to say something that could be a wee bit outlandish here. Is it just the expectations with Rangers? It kind of feels like Rangers is in this 2012 period like Liverpool were, where they had Roy Hodgson finishing 8th, and it's just like they're a massive club, but realistically, the squad just isn't there. Do you think it's the expectations, or is it just the manager and squad just isn't good enough?
It can be. I think it can be partially expectation, but I kind of get away from the fact that the style of play and maybe the players just aren't adapting to Derek McInnes' style of play. But I just don't think Rangers have an identity at the moment. I just don't think the players know kind of how much this means to people like fans in Scotland. I think it goes for the same if it was Hibs or Dundee United or Celtic or anyone. I think players are coming in here from the likes of League One in England or your Championships or your France. Do you know what I mean? And they just don't realise how major football is, like how much it does dictate fans' moods and how much it does dictate how people are going to work the next day. But yeah, I think expectation is part of it, but I think a bigger part is players trying to adapt to how the manager wants them to play.
Does Rangers have the players for the McKenzie style of play? Because you've seen, obviously Ross McCrory came back in, people are saying he's Rangers man, and Derek McKenzie has also worked with him at Aberdeen, etc. But he started Dragojevic, I think that's how you say his name, a Serbian midfielder at right back. Is that not like a big red flag thinking you've got Sterling and McCrory, but you're playing a centre mid at right back, and he also did put Finlay Cortis up there as well, I think at half time. Is that not a big massive red flag on Derek McInnes' part?
Yeah, 100%. I'm not going to sit here and beat around the bush. It's a definite red flag considering you've brought in a right back and you've got Sterling who can play right back. But I'm still a bit close to why he's done it, because I don't think don't get me wrong. I think Dragojevic is good. I thought he done well on Thursday night when he filled in at right back. I thought he done all right, but it's not his position, and you've got two, I would say, fully fit right backs there that want to play every week. I don't think they're going to shy away from saying that. I don't think Sterling's going to be like, oh yeah, fair enough, that's fine. Like, he plays centre mid. We're going to be angry, and I think if you're going to continue to play a centre mid at right back, it's going to cause tension.
Darren, obviously this was 3 years on the trot. Hibs have won at Ibrox, obviously have bet Celtic at Celtic Park, also never bet Hearts at Tynecastle, but we did beat them at Easter Road. Is this like a big statement that Hibs can move forward? But what do you think is holding them back a wee bit? As you've seen, he did lose at home against Motherwell, which is obviously a great team. Do you feel like Hibs are just at a stumbling block where they can win these massive games, and rightly so, but just don't kick on as a club?
Do you know, it's another huge statement for David Gray. I mean, in the last few shows we've just been discussing, we went from failing at the first hurdle in Europe. We're talking about will he come back from this. Previously, I said he's done it many times before, and this is just yet another occasion of David Gray proving his worth, breaking another kind of record that he just kind of numerously keeps on doing. And I don't know, don't get me wrong, right? On Sunday, that kind of game was set up for Hibs, right? We are struggling to break teams down now. If teams are coming out, that game was made for Hibs right from the start. You can see someone was going to go our way. I mean, we could have been 2-0 up at half time, to be fair. Granted, like, Rangers had plenty of chances as well, but the chances that Hibs had, you just thought David Gray just and put someone in their heads to say, like, you've done it twice before, so that, like, this is no biggie here. Like, just go and play your game. He made loads of changes, so it is frustrating that you see a performance like that and you see a win of that stature, and only 2 weeks ago we were talking about a defeat in Kosovo. It's literally the Hibs roller coaster. Like, you're going into Thursday this week, and you still can't be 100% positive going into that game, even after a result like that, even after he rested players. So I think it shows what we're capable of. Can you do that consistently is a big question.
Do you think it could be a wee bit of a double whammy to David Gray, thinking you can't get these statements win, and then if you draw against, say, like a St Johnstone, etc., it feels like, oh, that's it. He's just not the manager to take us forward. But after beating Rangers at Ibrox second game of the season, should the target be Hibs for be third, or would most fans just be like, that fourth is still decent enough as well? Or do you think that target should be third place, or maybe, I know some unrealistic expectations between Hibs fans saying, why not go for the split little firm if Rangers has started this poorly?
Right now, I mean, absolutely the target's third. For Hibs going into every season, that is the target. Anything above that, obviously, you had the rarities last year with Hearts, right? Would be an absolute bonus. But I think for your Hibs, Aberdeen, Hearts, they have to focus. The third is the target. So absolutely, third is the target this season. We'll see how the season plays out for that. A win like this kind of eliminates that Motherwell defeat. And as we spoke about before, we never played bad overall in the Motherwell game. We were probably unlucky. They got the run of the green in the second half with that kind of mistake in the middle of the park. But overall, we weren't bad. Yet on Thursday, we got a win, and I thought we were absolutely horrendous, as I said on this last week. I thought we were terrible. How could we play terrible in that game at home? And then we played so well. Don't get me wrong, like on any other day, right? You have to ride your luck when you go to Ibrox. And on any other day, Rangers could have put the chances away, right? You have to just take the positives for that. But at the same time, we had plenty of opportunities as well. So the game could have swung either way at many moments in that. But overall, the performance was good.
Well, before we go back onto G, I'm going to ask Jack and Dan a question. Was it a penalty, Jack?
It is a very, very weird situation because I can see both sides, right? I understand why it was given. I do. I promise I do. You see Dan laughing. I do. But do I think it's a penalty? No, I don't.
Darren, do you have a response to that?
So I'm going to ask Jack, do you think it's not a penalty because you disagree with the rules of that being a penalty? Right, because that's a different matter. If you're disagreeing with that rule should be in place, right? That's you disagreeing with the rule. Is it a penalty according to the rules? 100%.
Of course it is.
And so there's two different things there. And I think David Gray summed it up perfectly, right? If that ball never fell in that area, that is not a penalty, right? But purely because the Rangers player ran towards the Hibs player. Now, he was grappling for both, but the Rangers player got the better of it. He was facing the Rangers player. He pulled him to the ground, right? He won that battle, right? He won that battle with grappling. The ball ended up falling in that area where Jason Kerr would have jumped if he wasn't pulled in. That's why they gave the penalty. That's purely... And there is that debate of, right, we're going to see penalties every week for this, right? One, I would love to see more penalties given for that to stamp that out. And players will learn for it quick enough that actually, do you know what? Just defend it. Like, mark your player, give it a bit of tussling, but don't be grabbing onto their shirt or holding them for jumping down. That will soon change. The problem we've got in Scotland is next week we're going to see the exact same thing happen and no penalty will be given because there'll be no consistency. And that's what annoys people. And that's why probably Rangers fans will be so annoyed in the coming weeks as there will not be consistency there. But it's 100% a penalty.
I wanted a caveat to your thing, Darren, because Don Robertson was in a perfect place. He sees that. So it comes down to Bottle, and it looks like he's gave it because VAR's picked up. Then that's a problem saying because VAR's doing the game. But then we've all played football, even if it isn't to a high level. Your natural instinct is to try and get the better of the player that you're either attacking against or defending. Because if you're attacking, you're going to be pushing the guy. If you're defending, you're going to be grappling the guy. So I feel like the referees know that, and as you said, both players were doing it. I think he could actually look. I know Jason Keir fell, but if you actually looked at the other players beside him, they were grappling each other as well.
Oh,
so it's
100%.
Like, you see it. So it's just like, I think Don Robertson bottled it, and that's a problem.
I agree with you because he should have spotted that on the park, right? He should have paused play, should have went to VAR, Now, if that had went to VAR and if he gave it or didn't give it, fine, right? How is the referee on the pitch missing that? If this is a new rule change, they're all implementing these rules. That should be stamped out straight away for the referee, and then let VAR debate it or go and have another look at what kind of cemented that was when it did go to VAR and he went across and looked at the screen. He had no doubt. When he looked back at, obviously he's got VAR in his ear. They will be giving him. They're not going to say that is a penalty. They'll say we want you to re-look at this because we think this possibly a penalty. He then gave it as he looked at it on the screen. So it's kind of like then it sunk into him. Actually, that rule that actually happened. The ball came down there. It's going to be harder to see it in real time, but I think he agreed that it definitely should be a penalty. VAR agreed that it should be a penalty. I'm just surprised he didn't see it in real time, or if he did, like you say, did he bottle it?
Well, Jay, we will move back on to the Hearts and Dundee United game. Is your expectations kind of lowered a bit rather than, obviously I still think, Dundee United will get top 6, but maybe you were thinking a wee bit maybe of a further 4th place finish. Obviously going to Tynecastle and getting scalped by 4 goals to nil, sorry. Has that kind of changed your mindset a bit, or you're thinking it's just a one-off game? We could easily do that at Tannadice to Hearts. So what's your thinking on the top 6 situation for Dundee United?
I think I'm still saying 4th. It's one game. We're 2 games in. There's still a lot to play for the season.
Obviously, you had that impressive draw at Tannadice against Rangers in a game that I felt Dundee United probably should have won, especially with that random miss. And then you're tough, you go away for the first time in the season to a tough place, and the players do capitulate. I think it was more on the players rather than the system. Albeit Jim Goodwin does have some blame on his cars. Is that not a worry? But if you go to say at Easter Road, where I don't think Dundee United has a good record, that you then go to an Ibrox or a Celtic Park, albeit he did have some decent games against those top 2. And then you go to maybe like a Pittodrie if Aberdeen do better in the league. Is that not a worry that your first test away from home has been a scalping?
Yeah, it is a really worry, but I have a feeling if we don't get going soon, then people will be on Goodwin's back pretty soon.
Do you think they have a right to be, or do you think, if his first 5 games are pretty hard, they should lay off unless you want to say first 6, if you're including Celtic in the Cup?
I think they should lay off him a little bit, maybe give him a month or 2, and if he's still losing games, get right on his back.
Dan, obviously Hearts is obviously your rivals. Do you think this is a win and a statement that Hearts are going to be turning a corner, or do you think sometimes Dundee United have these performances where you can cut them open and beat them by a lot to, or do you think it's a one game you just can't really read into it too much?
I think Hearts are not going to become a bad team overnight, right? And I think Dundee United were probably a little bit unlucky that Hearts got absolutely thumped through the week, so they've actually no rested any players on Sunday. They were up against basically like a strong Hearts team, where if they were like maybe competing still in Europe, they might have rested a few players. So you probably had a little bit of unluckiness there the early season coming up against a Hearts team who are kind of written off Europe. So like at this round of Europe, obviously, up against it. But Hearts are not going to become a bad team overnight. I think they're still going to be there or thereabout. They're probably going to be everyone's toughest rivals for 3rd place this season. He needed that win. You can't really agree with him being under pressure, because the games he's had up to this point, let's be fair, Sturm Graz, Benfica, do you know what I'm saying? Like the grand scheme of it, they were unlucky up at Aberdeen. They never played great, but Aberdeen were really, really poor. So I had this down as like a straightforward win for Hearts, to be fair, at the start of the game. I didn't see any surprises there. Hearts at home as well. Again, it's a different beast, isn't it, when they're playing at Tynecastle. So I didn't see big surprises. They needed that one.
Jack, obviously Hearts did top you to 2nd place. Do you think Hearts can do it again this season, or do you think Rangers will, even how bad they have started, do you think they'll get it to grips and it'll just be the regular Celtic and Rangers?
Yeah, I think we'll get back to to at least in that conversation again. I think Hearts last season they were very good, but I think it's one in a million. That's harsh, but it's one of the things that you're not going to see that often. I don't think.
To be fair, it was 22 years since the last time it's been done, so it's obviously a long time to keep reoccurring it. But well, I'm talking about when Rangers were actually at a decent level, not like 2018 if you're including the Aberdeen situation. But for Rangers and Derek McInnes, I'm not going to say he's under pressure. There might be some Rangers fans that didn't want him in. It's obviously going to be on his back, and I guess that's understandable if it wasn't your choice of manager. But see if Rangers drop any more points within the first 5 games and Celtic hypothetically win their first 5 games, is Rangers at the title race?
I think it kind of comes down to if Celtic can continue their form. I think obviously the Rangers need to win games, but it also does come down to if Celtic do end up going miles clear, which in every possibility they can. I think they've got the squad to do it. I think they've got that mentality that Rangers don't at the moment. I think they've got that winning about them. They know how to win games. I don't think Rangers have got that bottle now. But that's a hard one. But you can't judge off the first 6 games. I don't think you can say aye. I don't think you can say no. I think it all comes down to how the players react to it, being that far out, and if they've got the fight to go and say we're not out it yet, let's go and grab games by the scruff of the neck. But I don't.
The only reason I'm including the first 5 games because I think this is the first time in quite a long time that Celtic and Rangers aren't playing each other in the first 5 games. So It feels like if you haven't really, you've seen last season, I felt obviously we never really knew how Motherwell was going to play, etc. But the first 5 games of last season, you felt it was kind of like an easy run-in on paper for Rangers, and obviously it never worked out well. But as you can see, with what happens usually with Rangers over the past 4 years is a manager comes in in October and they do close the gap, and then it kind of fades away again. But Rangers fans keep talking about mentality, and rightly so, but they bring in new players and the mentality's still the same. Is like, how do you get rid of that? Like, you've got rid of Butland, Tav, etc., and the mentality is still there. It's like, what is the problem?
It's partially down to recruitment, I think. I just don't think they're recruiting the right players. I don't think they're recruiting winners. I think winners have winning mentality. I just don't think we're recruiting players that know how to go and take games by the. We don't have playmakers. Like, we don't have players that are going to go, right, you know what, I'll take this game. I'll be the game changer. I'll be the difference. But Rangers just don't have that in the squad.
The signings you've made, you thought like some of the kind of players, like Cammy Devlin, I thought he was really poor on Sunday. I thought he was making wrong decisions numerous times in the middle of the park. He seemed very, very, I'll go for the safe option all the time. He's a type of player that, for Hearts, he was that player. The exact player that you're asking for, who's going to go and grab the game by the scruff of the neck. He was that player. Now, is that a lack of bravery? Problem, like if I was Rangers fan, I'd be worried that we've not got that cohesion now. It doesn't seem to be a structure there, yet you're still talking about 3 or 5 more signings to then fit them into the team. By the time you're kind of settled and by the time McInnes has got his ideas across, you could be 12 points behind Celtic by that time, and it is really dangerous. I mean, Celtic fans are really moaning now about, obviously, a lack of signings. However, right now, it's probably benefited Celtic. They've brought in some 2 or 3 quality players. Well, we've seen on Sunday, the 2 players were absolute quality. Duran and who? Brilliant. And that's what they needed, just to change that. When Rangers have kind of signed numerous players, they all have to gel together. They have to get McInnes' ideas over. And it just seems like a slow process. And it seems like boys like Cammy Devlin was like, he was the player that you're asking for. That's why he was signed and he's not doing it.
The problem with Rangers is, I feel, is to bring in a lot of loans. Obviously, with Goma, looks like he's come back on loan. Mickey Moore, the best player, was on loan. I think they could potentially get the Aston Villa right back on loan because the Club Brugge is not selling the right back. So if you're bringing in a lot of loans, especially in that defensive area, which you can tell is a calamity right now, I think they're always going to have the same problems. But then I think the questions, obviously, rightly so, in the recruitment team. But Andrew Kavanagh came out with a statement, I think it was after the game, about Chimity, that he's not going to sell the best players for money if they can't reinvest that. If you can't reinvest 22 million in a better player than Chimity, I think that is scandalous. Don't get me wrong, he scored important goals against Celtic and Rangers, but then in other clubs you weren't really seeing it until like he came into the split where he was kind of improving his goal record. But if you look from a full 38 game period, even Jack will say, I think Jelavic scored every time with his first touch, and like he's a mental striker. I'm going to include the likes of like the Kenny Millers and all that. There's so much better players out there that had like you could spend 2-3 million on if you can't. And obviously, he's done his ACL, so that offer is never going out there. I just think Andrew Kavanagh, I don't want to judge this on an Americanism thing, etc. But I don't think he's came to grips yet what Rangers is, and he's been there for 2 years, and I think that is absolutely mental. Jack, what's your thoughts on Andrew Kavanagh position of things? Do you think he should be doing a lot better, or do you think sometimes it just comes down to luck as well?
No, I totally agree with what you've just said. I don't think, as much as he's been to a load of games, I still don't think he really gets it yet. And I know that phrase goes about, he gets it. We thought Derek McGuinness got it, you know what I mean, and look what's happening. But no, I don't think he understands how major but a job he's actually in at the moment. But no, I don't know. It's partially recruitment, but no, I don't think he gets it just yet. No.
Well, obviously Rangers and Hibs are in Europe on Thursday. We'll talk about score predictions for that game, and then obviously I think it's Sunday for you two in the Premier Sports Cup. If Rangers get put out on Thursday, obviously play the Conference League team, which I think they should qualify no matter what. Is that an embarrassment for Rangers if they get put out on Thursday?
Yeah, 100%. That's a team Rangers 2-3 years ago would be beaten in Europe, considering the teams we were playing in Europe and the teams we were beating. So it's we've took one step forward and about 18 steps backwards in the last 3 years. It's a major concern, is what I'll say on Thursday if we lose.
Darren, obviously heading to North Macedonia, this team is no mugs. It looks like it feels like a game, albeit Rangers Hibs did win on Sunday, but it feels like a game if Hibs do lose, it wouldn't surprise any of us. I'm kind of speaking for always. I don't know if that's true in your case, but it's hard given Thursday. Do you think it's something that Hibs can prevail in? And hopefully, if they do, you're thinking, okay, this can actually kick on consistency into our season.
Aye, we're definitely capable of winning that on Thursday. He rested a few players on Sunday. They'll come back in. Boyle will be back. We're going from the first leg, we're definitely the better team. We're definitely the stronger side. However, it is going to be a different ball game over there, right? Like it's going to be really hot. One thing that's probably went in our favour is it's meant to be getting played in like a 30,000 seater stadium, but like they usually play in a 4,000 seater stadium, so there'll probably be a lack of atmosphere. So you can maybe take away that intimidation side of it, but we should be expecting to go over it there and win this game. And I think that last minute goal in the first leg to give us that goal lead, I reckon we can go over there and at minimum get a draw. Might go extra time. Anything can happen. Like I say, it's a Hibs roller coaster. Like you go from last week to Sunday to next week, so anything can happen.
Jay, we're all going to score predictions now. Obviously, you've got a big, massive game against Celtic on Saturday.
Yeah.
Is that Tannadice? You can be optimistic if you want. You probably will get slaughtered if you do, but fuck it, it is football at the end of the day. What is your score prediction for Saturday?
I would like to be optimistic, but I'm saying 3-1 Celtic. Just after Sunday, we just don't look good.
I think Hibs is playing earlier than Rangers, so I'll go for you in the Sunday game. Hibs against Partick Thistle. I think that will be a decent game to watch, to be fair. What's your score prediction for that one?
I think it'd be really hard to give a score prediction on that because it will all depend on how we do on Thursday to what team he plays on Saturday. If we get knocked out on Thursday, he's going to go straight back to our strongest team and try and get Saturday to Saturday again. If we win, I could see him resting players again because then we've got a massive game the Thursday after. You'd think at home we're going to be the strongest team, but I think it's probably one of the tougher, lower, like outside of the Premier League. We could have got Partick Thistle. We're not going to be any mugs.
Jack, well, you've got St Mirren. Obviously, they're on a wee bit of a decent run. Hopefully, you beat St Mirren, or Dermot McInnes is definitely severely under pressure. What's your score prediction for that one?
Yeah, I'll be optimistic. I need to, for my own benefit, my own sanity. I'll say 2-1 Rangers.
Well, thank you, lads, for coming on. If you are obviously still watching, please hit that like button, subscribe, and if you are listening on Spotify, hit that follow button. It's very much appreciated. But to now, I'll see you all in the next video.